Hi, I'm Rick Surowicz. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Rick Surowicz Watercolor. I'm live today in my studio where I'll be doing a demonstration of a coastal inlet painting. If after watching this video you want to learn more about my YouTube videos, my self-paced courses, or my live online classes, be sure to click on the links that appear at the end of the video. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, you can click at the link in the lower right hand corner at any time while watching this video. As I said, I'll be doing this coastal inlet scene as a demonstration, and I'll be using this setup here, where you'll see the painting that I'm doing, the reference photo that I'm using for inspiration, and my palette. And with that, I'm ready to go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm ready to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with just a very simple sky wash. I'm going to use some cerulean blue and just start to put that wash down. I'm using a large wash brush. This is actually a Princeton Neptune quill brush. It's size 6, real soft. And I'm just going to drop some of this cerulean blue in here for the sky. I'm going to add just a little bit of water, let that thin out. So pretty simple. I'm actually going to add just a little more color in here, a little more pigment, a little stronger value, just a little bit. And I'll probably leave it like that. I don't want to overwork this. And we'll stop with that. Let's see. There we go. And now I'm going to give that a quick dry. And then I'm going to start working my way down in my composition. Okay, so that's dry. And now I'm gonna put in this shape here for this mountain, and I'm gonna take, this is a number 6 round brush I'm using. It's actually a Princeton Aqua Elite, a number 6. I'm gonna take a little raw sienna and just a hint of rose madder here. I'm going to paint this pretty light. So it's a light, warm wash of raw sienna. And I'm going to take a little of this, I'll take a little cobalt blue, I think. And I'll add a little viridian to that. And just a little rose madder. I'm just going to touch this with this cooler color, and I want to let some of the warm colors show through. take a little more of the cobalt blue. Still pretty light. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put there's some trees here that are in the distance. I'm going to take a little of this. This is sap green. I'm going to add a little ultramarine blue to it. Cool that down. A little alizarin crimson. And I'm going to paint this tree line in. I'm going to let it kind of go kind of soft edge as it hits this mountain area. Is still a little wet, so I'm going to let that just kind of dissolve into that. And I'm going to add a little quinacridone gold. So I'm going to go just a little warmer here in the front part of this. Let's see, just a little cooler mixture in here. Okay, so I've got that distant tree line, and I've got some trees that are here kind of by themselves in the distance. Another one out here. So we'll leave those there. And I'm going to dry this again. And I'm going to put just just a touch of a darker value on a few of these areas of the mountain. Not too much darker, but just a light glaze. So let me dry this. Okay, that's dry. And now I'm going to take just a little bit of cobalt blue. Just to add a little variation in value and edge on what I have on this mountain. I still want it to be pretty soft edged. We'll probably leave it at that. And I do want to actually get a little more of this cooler mixture over a little bit more of this. All right, so I think that'll work there. And now I'm going to take some of the raw sienna, and I'm going to paint the shoreline here with a warm tone. I'll take a little raw umber. And I think I'll add a little bit of this blue. And let's get a little cobalt blue. Probably enough there. I'll bring a little of that darker value over here. And leave just some of the light value for the shoreline up there. And Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead with some of these greens. I'm going to paint. I'm going to get some quinacridone gold and some of this green that I have on my palette. And I'm just going to start to bring in this other tree line. And I want this to be a little warmer green than what I had. I'm going to add a little pyro red to my mixture. So there's a kind of a warmer gold tone in that, and we'll take that same color over here. This is very, very close in terms of placement, in terms of middle ground. So the colors are very close. The values are going to be close. I'll bring a little water into this. And it's kind of a rocky shoreline, so I'm going to leave that pattern in here, and I'll come in with an earthy tone to do something there. Okay, and I'm going to get a kind of a brighter green, add a little permanent green light into this. And there's a grassy area kind of right here. So I'll paint that in. Okay. So over here, I'll be working with some darker value trees, and probably gonna get just a little bigger. Let's see. No, I'll stay with this brush here. I'm gonna add some sap green and a little of the pyro red to help neutralize that a little bit. Just go ahead and start painting some of this. And I'm going to get a little royal blue into my mixture to darken it up a little bit. So we have this long line of trees. And I want some of that darker value. Get a little more royal blue in here. And I want some alizarin crimson. I'm going to take a little moisture off my brush with a tissue so I can drag this and just get a little lacier feel to the tops of a few of these. And I'm going to get, I'm actually going to go to this wash brush that I use for the sky. And start to bring in some larger areas of color value. See if the smaller brush, the number 6 brush I was using, works fine, but after a while you start to fiddle around a little too much. You need to have a bigger brush. A little royal blue, a little sap green. This is a little rose madder. And now I'll go back to my larger brush, or smaller brush, just to kind of finish the tops here. This rocky shoreline. Okay, and I think I'm ready to dry this again. So now I'm going to take some of this raw sienna, a little raw umber, a little cobalt blue, and I'm going to paint in some of this areas where the kind of gets a little muddy in the where the water is receded. I'll put some of this darker tone in. Okay, I'm to get a little lighter here. Let's fix that. Add some touches of brighter color, warm and cool colors. And I think I'm going to go to my larger brush. Rinse that out. And I'm gonna put some of this earthy tone in. Some of this, a little bit of this kind of a reddish brown that I have. Get a little of that in there. Some cerulean. Okay, and now I'm going to dry this again. Okay, I've dried this thoroughly, and I've actually cleaned my palette and reset it up with some of the colors that I've been working with. And I'm going to put a light wash, just a very light wash over this area here. And a little green in that, I don't really want that. Take some of this, just a little bit of raw sienna, thinned out quite a bit. And I'm just going to hit a light wash over this distant shore a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and actually take some raw umber and some raw sienna, and I'm gonna put some, just a little bit of a darker value on this rock. Bring that down, and we'll do the same here. I'm not gonna get too involved. Not a lot of detail or anything on these. There's some smaller rocks around here. get a brush with a finer point to make a few of these marks. Yeah, I'll get a little darker on a few of these little rocks out here. Let's see, we got some darker rocks here. A little bit here, kind of a rocky shoreline in areas. And put a little royal blue in this mixture, or this raw umber. Give me more of a dark, cooler neutral. Okay, so I'm gonna dry that, and then I'm going to come in with a wash over this water. I'm going to drop some of the reflective colors coming down. So that's dry, and before I actually work on this water, I'm going to put a little texture in this ground cover here. All these, this kind of sandy, rocky area. So I'm going to take some water in my brush. It's not going to be a real strong texture because it's going to be a very low contrast because it's light value here, but I'm going to put some clear water on there. I'm just going to rub that a little bit with a tissue. And it may be hard to pick up on that camera. It gives me just a very light texture. And I'm going to put a little bit in these trees, and you'll see it clearer here. So now if I just lift that, you can see some of that texture there. I'm going to put a little bit there. And I'm going to take my brush with some of this middle value. I'm just going to tap it and splatter a little bit of paint in here to give me some texture on this this sandy area. A little bit over there. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay, let me hit that real quick with a dryer, and then I'm going to do this wash. Okay, so now I have this cerulean blue, pretty light mixture. I'm taking this soft quill brush and just gently put in this wash. Okay, so now I have that light wash in there, and I'm going to take just a little stronger blue. Here's a cobalt blue. I'm going to drop in here, back here, and a few other places. Okay. And now what I want to do is I'm going to let that, some of those areas I'm going to let dry a little bit, but other areas I'm going to drop some color in. So I want this to be more of a blue-green tone here. Not quite that strong. While this is wet, I'm going to drop a little of this in here to pick up the reflection of the trees and the land. Get a little of that going on here. And then right over here, I'm going to use this other green. So I have some of that reflecting into the water. I want that to be a little warmer, so I'm going to add some sap green and some pyro red. I'm going a little darker. I want to get a little more green in that. And actually I should probably take a little bit of that from here also. I think I want a little bit more blue, this cobalt blue. You need to be careful here that I don't get any blossoms where I'm working this. Okay, and I think I'll dry that. And actually though, I need to bring some of this green just into here. Okay, so we'll go with that. Let me dry that. Then we'll put in some tree trunks and a little bit more detail on some of these areas. So now that that's dry, I'm going to take this angle shader. It's a 1/2-inch angle shader made by Princeton, and I'm going to dip it in some water and take the bead of water off. I just want it to be damp, and I'm going to lift out some of the tree trunks here, just leaving a light shape. So I blot that with a tissue, and as I make these marks, they start to look like a line that's drawn on top of them, and I'll come back in with a brush and a little bit of paint to cause some breaks in that line and make it look like it fits a little bit better. But I'm going to just come along here, lift out some with this damp brush, and you want to try and make the spacing so it's not the same between all the trees. So I stick some in a little closer, a little farther, and I don't want them all to look the same. So I'm going to put a couple over here on the right side, just a few. And I blot that. And as I drag that off the paint onto the sky, it goes from removing the paint, leaving a light mark, to making a dark mark. And here I'm going to take a little bit of the paint and just paint over some of that line that I lifted so it doesn't look like a line just stuck on top. Do the same over here. And I want a dark tone Now I'm going to paint in some dark value tree trunks. So I'm using a little quinacridone burnt orange and some royal blue. And now I just put in a few tree trunks, a couple dried out trees. I don't want them all to look the same, so I try to change the length and the spacing. A couple there. Have one come up a little bit there and just kind of come out of the other trees. And now just a few over here. One here in the distance, a little smaller, so the scale you can see that's farther away. And just a few touches of dark value here and there. A little darker value on a few of the light lines. And I want to have some of that those marks reflect down into the water without reflection. So I lift out using that same brush. And same thing with the darker marks. I'm going to put a few of those in. All right, now once again I'm going to dry this. Okay, that's where I'm going to stop. It's dry. I'm going to put this mat around it, and you can get a look at the painting without the tape around. And so this is my coastal inlet waters, and I started working with a wash in the sky with a soft brush, then came down to the mountain, started to work on the trees and started to layer those from the background forward, and put in this sandy beach, then the water and some of the reflections. And there we go. So I hope you enjoyed this, and good luck with all your painting.